Have you noticed something strange about life? The mind can feel heavy, even when nothing is physically heavy. You're sitting on a chair, but it feels like you're carrying a mountain inside. Stay with me till the end, especially the last lessons, because they can completely change how you respond to life's weight. Many of us today are not tired because of work. We are tired because of thinking, overthinking the past, worrying about the future, comparing ourselves with others, smiling outside but feeling restless inside. You wake up, scroll your phone, see someone achieving something, and suddenly your heart feels heavier than it was 5 minutes ago. Nothing changed in your life, but everything changed in your mind. And the truth is, most of life's heaviness is not because life is hard, it's because we are holding it in the wrong way. When life feels heavy, the first thing we usually do is turn against our own mind. We say, why am I thinking like this? Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I stay calm like others? And unknowingly, we start treating the mind as if it is the problem. But the truth is, the mind is not your enemy. It is just tired, overworked, overloaded. Think about this for a moment. If a person works continuously without rest, without appreciation, without space to breathe, they don't become peaceful, they become irritated, anxious, and exhausted. The mind is no different. It has been working day and night for you, processing expectations, disappointments, comparisons, fears, memories, responsibilities. And yet, instead of thanking it, we keep criticizing it. Most people don't suffer because life is unbearable. They suffer because their mind has too many tabs open. Just like a phone slows down when too many applications are running, the mind begins to feel heavy when it is carrying too much at once. Past regrets running in the background, future worries refreshing every few seconds, other people's opinions downloading non-stop. And on top of that, we expect the mind to stay calm. We forget one simple truth: calmness is not the absence of thoughts. Calmness is the ability to manage thoughts with compassion. Many people say, I meditate, but my mind doesn't stop. Of course it doesn't stop. The mind was never designed to stop. It was designed to serve. But when it is forced, suppressed, or judged, it rebels. When it is understood, it cooperates. Instead of saying, my mind is weak, try saying, my mind is tired. That small shift changes everything. Because weakness needs force, but tiredness needs care. Have you noticed how gentle you are with others when they are exhausted? You say, take rest. It's okay. You've done enough. But when it comes to yourself, you say, push harder, be stronger, don't feel this way. And that is where the heaviness multiplies. A calm mind begins with self-kindness. The mind is like a child. When a child is overwhelmed, shouting at them doesn't make them calm. Sitting beside them does. Listening does. Reassurance does. In the same way, when your mind feels heavy, don't try to fix it immediately. First, sit with it, observe it, acknowledge it. Say quietly within yourself, I see you. I know you're carrying a lot. That moment of awareness itself is healing. People often ask, how do I reduce overthinking? The honest answer is, you don't reduce overthinking by fighting thoughts. You reduce it by reducing emotional overload, by simplifying expectations, by learning to let go of what is unnecessary. Most thoughts are not problems, they are signals. Signals that something inside you needs attention, rest, closure, or clarity. The mind becomes noisy when the heart is unheard. So when life feels heavy, don't ask, what is wrong with me? Ask, what am I holding that I no longer need to carry? That question brings maturity. That question brings peace. Understand this deeply. A calm mind is not built in one day. It is built every time you choose patience over pressure, awareness over aggression, compassion over criticism. When you stop seeing your mind as a problem and start seeing it as a partner, life softens. The noise doesn't vanish overnight, but it loses its power over you. And once you learn this, once you truly understand your mind instead of battling it, you are ready for the next step. Because now you are no longer fighting yourself. You are finally walking with yourself. And that is where true calm begins. One of the quiet reasons the mind feels heavy is not because life is difficult, but because we are in a constant hurry with life. Somewhere along the way, we started believing that if we slow down, we will fall behind, that if we pause, we will lose opportunities, that if we rest, we are being lazy. And this belief slowly drains the peace out of us. Look closely at your life. How often are you physically present but mentally rushing? Eating food while thinking about work, spending time with family while checking notifications, resting while feeling guilty for not being productive. The body may slow down, but the mind is still running marathons. And then we wonder why it feels heavy. Life is not asking you to sprint all the time. Life is asking you to arrive fully wherever you are. When you rush through life, even beautiful moments feel stressful, even success feels tiring. Because speed without awareness does not lead to peace. It leads to exhaustion. Many people think slowing down means doing less. That is not true. Slowing down means doing things with clarity instead of chaos, with presence instead of pressure, with intention instead of impulse. Think about nature for a moment. Trees don't rush to grow, rivers don't hurry to reach the ocean, flowers don't compete with each other to bloom faster, and yet everything happens perfectly on time. Nature teaches us that growth happens naturally when there is patience, but we humans want everything immediately. Immediate results, immediate recognition, immediate happiness. And when life doesn't move at our speed, we feel frustrated. That frustration quietly becomes heaviness in the mind. Sometimes the mind feels calm, not because problems are solved, but because we stop forcing solutions. You don't have to figure out your entire future today. You don't have to become everything you aspire to be this year. You don't have to heal everything at once. Life unfolds step by step, not all at once. When you slow down, you begin to hear yourself again. You start noticing what truly matters and what can wait. You realize that many of the things you are stressed about are not urgent, they are just loud. Most of the pressure we feel is self-created. Deadlines that nobody else imposed, standards, RDs that nobody demanded, comparisons that nobody forced us into. And we carry this invisible pressure everywhere, wondering why our mind feels so heavy. Slowing down gives you perspective. It allows you to separate what is essential from what is noise. Have you noticed how when you slow your breathing, the mind automatically settles? That's because the mind follows rhythm. When life is lived in constant rush, the mind mirrors that chaos. When life is lived with conscious pauses, the mind begins to trust again. Trust that things don't collapse if you take a break. Trust that you are not behind. You are just becoming. Slowing down is not quitting. It is recalibrating. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop pushing yourself and start listening to yourself. To recognize that rest is not a reward for finishing everything. It is a requirement for doing anything well. When you slow down, you start responding to life instead of reacting to it. And reactions always carry heaviness. Responses carry wisdom. Life is not a race where everyone has the same finish line. Everyone has a different journey, a different pace, a different purpose. Comparing speed only steals joy. Honoring your pace restores peace. So when life feels heavy, ask yourself gently, where am I rushing unnecessarily? What can I slow down without guilt? Even slowing down one part of your day can lighten the entire mind, because calmness doesn't come from escaping responsibilities. It comes from engaging with them consciously. And once you learn to slow down, not out of fear, but out of awareness, the mind begins to relax. The heart begins to trust. And you are ready to move to the next inner step. Be. Because slowing down is not the destination. It is the doorway to acceptance. When the mind feels heavy, our instinct is to fight the feeling. We say, I don't want to feel this way. This shouldn't be happening. I need to be strong. But what we don't realize is that resistance doesn't remove pain. It multiplies it. The more you fight an emotion, the more energy you give it. And soon what was just a feeling turns into suffering. There is a big difference between pain and suffering. Pain is natural. It is a part of being human. But suffering begins when we argue with reality, when we say, this should not be happening to me. Acceptance is not about liking the situation. It is about acknowledging the truth of the moment without adding mental violence to it. Think about this. When you are caught in the rain unexpectedly, you can either keep complaining about getting wet or you can accept it and adjust. The rain doesn't stop because you are angry, but your frustration stops the moment you accept what is happening. Life works in the same way. Many people misunderstand acceptance. They think it means giving up or becoming passive. But acceptance is actually the first step toward change. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot calm a storm by pretending the sky is clear. When you accept how you feel, something beautiful happens. The mind stops fighting itself. The inner tension reduces. And in that space, clarity slowly begins to appear. Notice how children express emotions. They cry when they are hurt. They don't suppress it. They don't feel guilty for feeling sad. And that is why they recover quickly. Adults, on the other hand, suppress emotions, judge them and carry them for years. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They settle into the mind like uninvited guests, and over time they become heaviness, anxiety, and restlessness. Acceptance is giving yourself permission to feel without labeling yourself as weak. When you say, yes, today feels heavy, you are not becoming negative. You are becoming honest. And honesty with oneself is deeply liberating. The moment you stop pretending to be okay, you actually begin to be okay. Acceptance softens the inner resistance. And when resistance softens, the mind naturally begins to calm down. Have you noticed that when someone truly listens to you without trying to fix you, you already feel lighter? That is because feeling understood is healing. You need to offer the same understanding to yourself. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? Ask, what is this feeling trying to teach me? Every emotion carries a message. Anxiety often asks for trust. Sadness asks for compassion. Fear asks for reassurance. When you listen, the message is delivered and the emotion loosens its grip. The mind becomes heavy when emotions are treated as enemies. Calmness comes when emotions are treated as visitors. They arrive, they speak, and they leave. Nothing stays forever, not even this heaviness. When you accept the moment fully, you stop draining energy by wishing it were different. That saved energy becomes available for healing, reflection, and wise action. Acceptance also builds inner strength. A person who can face reality as it is becomes unshakable, because they are no longer dependent on ideal conditions to remain calm. This is where spiritual maturity begins, not in rolling life, but in cooperating with it. And once you learn to accept without resistance, you unlock the next layer of calm, because now you are no longer fighting the present. You are ready to understand why the mind feels burdened by time itself, why tomorrow's worries steal today's peace. And that is the next step in this journey. One of the most invisible reasons the mind feels heavy is because it is rarely living in the present. Physically, we may be here, but mentally, we are somewhere else, in a future that hasn't arrived yet. We wake up today, but we carry tomorrow's worries in our heart. And then we wonder why we feel tired even before the day begins. Most of our anxiety has not yet happened. It exists only in imagination. But the body doesn't know the difference between real danger and imagined danger. So when you constantly think about what might go wrong, your body reacts as if it already has. This is why the mind feels exhausted. It is fighting battles that don't exist yet. Think about it honestly. How many times have you worried deeply about something that never actually happened? And how many times did worrying in advance actually improve the outcome? Very rarely. Most of the time it only stole your peace. The mind feels heavy because it is living in what ifs. What if things don't work out? What if I fail? What if people misunderstand me? But life is not lived in what if. Life is lived in what is. Tomorrow has its own energy. Today has its own capacity. When you mix the two, overload is inevitable. There is a beautiful wisdom in living one day at a time. It doesn't mean being careless or irresponsible. It means being present and focused. Planning is healthy. Obsessing is not. When you plan, you prepare with clarity. When you obsess, you prepare with fear. The mind often assumes that worrying is a form of responsibility. It feels like if we worry enough, we are doing something productive. But worry is not preparation. It is imagination without discipline. Preparation asks, what can I do today? Worry asks, what if everything goes wrong? One builds strength, the other drains it. Many people feel heavy because they are trying to control outcomes instead of focusing on effort. You can control your sincerity. You can control your discipline. You can control your attitude. But results are influenced by many factors beyond you. When you shift your attention from results to effort, the mind relaxes. Because effort is in your hands. Results are not. Have you noticed how children sleep peacefully even when tomorrow is uncertain? That's because they trust life. Adults lose peace not because life becomes harder, but because trust becomes weaker. Trust is not blind optimism. It is the courage to do your best today and leave tomorrow where it belongs. When you carry tomorrow's burden today, you are borrowing stress from a future that may never arrive. And borrowed stress comes with high interest. Life becomes lighter when you tell yourself, today, I will handle today. Nothing more, nothing less. Even the biggest challenges are solved one step at a time. But the mind insists on seeing the entire staircase at once, and that overwhelms it. You don't have to know how everything will work out. You only need to know what the next right step is. Clarity comes through movement, not overthinking. When you practice staying with Todd, you begin to notice small joys again. A conversation, a cup of tea, a moment of silence. These moments were always there, but worry kept you blind. Peace is not found in certainty. Peace is found in presence. And when you learn to stay present, when you stop dragging tomorrow into today, the mind begins to rest. This prepares you for a deeper understanding. Because even after slowing down, accepting, and staying present, many people still feel heavy. Why? Because they haven't learned the power of silence, and that is where the next lesson begins. When life feels heavy, our instinct is to fill the space. We fill silence with sound. We fill emptiness with scrolling. We feel discomfort with distraction. But what the mind truly needs during heaviness is not more stimulation. It needs space. Silence often scares us because in silence we meet ourselves. And sometimes we are afraid of what we might feel, so we keep the noise on. Music, phone buzzing, background voices running, not because we enjoy them, but because silence forces us to listen inward. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is medicine. Think about the moments when your mind felt the calmest. It was probably not when everything was loud and busy, it was in a quiet walk, a still morning. A moment when the world slowed down and you could finally breathe. The mind is constantly processing information, messages, opinions, news, expectations, and without pauses, it becomes cluttered. Just like a room becomes messy when it's never cleaned. The mind becomes restless when it's never quiet. Silence allows the mind to assemble itself. Thoughts fall into place. Emotions settle. The nervous system relaxes. This is not theory. It is lived experience. Even 5 minutes of conscious silence can shift your inner state. No phone, no talking, no fixing. Just sitting and breathing, observing without judging. Many people say, I tried silence, but my thoughts increased. That's normal. Silence doesn't create thoughts, it reveals them. And what is revealed can be released. Imagine muddy water. If you keep stirring it, it stays dirty. If you leave it undisturbed, the mud settles. The water becomes clear. Silence works the same way. The problem is not that the mind is noisy. The problem is that we never give it a chance to settle. We confuse peace with entertainment. But entertainment only distracts the mind temporarily. Silence heals it permanently. In silence, you start noticing the difference between useful thoughts and unnecessary ones. You realize how many thoughts are repetitive, exaggerated, or borrowed from others. And once you see that, their power over you reduces. Silence also reconnects you with intuition, the quiet inner voice that knows what you need. That voice is always speaking, but it is very soft, and noise drowns it out. Many people search outside for answers, motivational videos, advice, opinions. These have value. But the deepest clarity comes when the outside world goes quiet and the inside world becomes audible. Silence is where prayer becomes intimate, where gratitude feels real, where self-awareness deepens. You don't need to sit for hours. Even small, regular moments of silence can transform your relationship with your mind. When you give silence to your mind, you are telling it you don't need to perform, you don't need to impress, you don't need to solve everything right now, and the mind responds with relief. In silence, emotions that were suppressed begin to surface gently. Tears may come, memories may arise. That is not disturbance, that is healing. What is released no longer needs to be carried. A mind that never experiences silence becomes addicted to noise, and noise increases heaviness. A mind that befriends silence learns to rest even in chaos. Silence does not mean escaping responsibilities. It means recharging your inner strength so you can face them better. And something beautiful happens when silence becomes a habit. You stop reacting impulsively. You begin responding thoughtfully. The gap between stimulus and response widens. And in that gap, peace is born. Once silence starts healing the mind, something else naturally awakens. Appreciation, gratitude, a gentle recognition of what is already present. And that realization leads us to the next step. One that lightens emotional weight in ways nothing else can. As the mind begins to quiet down, as silence starts doing its healing work, something subtle begins to surface. Appreciation, a soft awareness of what is already here. And this is important because heaviness often comes not from what life has given us, but from what we keep telling ourselves is missing. The mind becomes heavy when it constantly focuses on lack, what I don't have, where I haven't reached, what others are doing better. Gratitude doesn't deny ambition, but it balances it. Without gratitude, ambition becomes pressure. With gratitude, ambition becomes purpose. Many people say, how can I be grateful when life is difficult? But gratitude is not saying everything is perfect. Gratitude is saying, even in imperfection, something is still supporting me. You may not have everything you want, but notice this. You have survived everything you once feared. You are still standing. still breathing, still learning, still growing. That itself is not smart. LL. The mind feels heavy when it is constantly scanning for problems. Gratitude gently shifts the mind to also notice blessings. And when the mind sees both, it becomes balanced. Have you noticed how two people can live the same life, yet experience it completely differently? One feels burdened, the other feels blessed. The difference is not the circumstances, the difference is awareness. Gratitude is awareness of grace. When you acknowledge what is already working in your life, the heart softens. And when the heart softens, the mind relaxes. Anxiety thrives in entitlement. Peace thrives in gratitude. This is why people who have very little sometimes smile more than those who have everything, because joy does not come from accumulation, it comes from appreciation. Gratitude also brings humility. It reminds us that we are not alone in our journey, that many forces, seen and unseen, have supported us. Parents, teachers, friends, strangers, time, nature, grace. When you recognize this, the weight of "I must handle everything alone" starts to lift. Gratitude doesn't change your situation overnight, but it changes your relationship with it, and that change is powerful. Problems feel lighter when the heart is fuller. A simple practice can shift your inner state immediately. Ask yourself at the end of the day, what did today give me? Not what it took, what it gave. Even one